The American Motors Corporation never stood a chance against Ford, GM, or Chrysler. They didn't have the money. They didn't have the factories. They didn't have the dealer network. What they had was desperation, creativity, and an almost reckless willingness to try things no sane automaker would. Over the course of 3 decades, AMC built some of the strangest and most overlooked cars in American history. These are the 7 craziest that nobody talks about. Number 1. The 1969 AMC Hearst SC Rambler. By 1969, the budget muscle car wars were heating up. Plymouth had the Roadrunner. Chevrolet had the Chevelle SS 396. AMC had the Rambler, a name that, to most Americans, conjured images of your grandfather driving to church at 35 miles per hour. So naturally, AMC decided to stuff their biggest V8 into it. Working with Hearst Performance Research, AMC took their compact Rambler Rogue hardtop and dropped in the 390 cubic inch V8 from the AMX. That engine made 315 horsepower and 425 pound-feet of torque, which was an absolutely obscene amount of power for a compact car weighing just 3,160 pounds. A Borg-Warner 4-speed manual with a Hearst shifter and a 3.54-to-1 limited-slip rear end completed the drivetrain. Functional ram air hood scoop, heavy-duty suspension with staggered rear shocks, power front disc brakes, and all of it wrapped in a red, white, and blue paint scheme so loud that car and driver called it a tri-colored Nickelodeon. AMC's advertising was gloriously shameless. "It only hurts them for 14 seconds, read one ad. "A Rambler that does the quarter mile in 14.3, read another. With some prep, magazine testers got the SC Rambler into the 12 seconds, all for a base price of $2,998, hundreds less than a comparable Roadrunner or SS 396. Only 1,512 were built. AMC almost certainly lost money on every single one, but that wasn't the point. The point was to get people into the showroom and to prove that the little company from Kenosha, Wisconsin, could throw a punch. Number 2. The 1970 AMC Rebel Machine. The SC Rambler was a hit with the press, but it was built on a compact platform that was starting to look its age. For 1970, AMC escalated. They took their mid-size Rebel, a car nobody was particularly excited about, and turned it into one of the most visually outrageous muscle cars of the era. The machine packed the same 390 cubic inch V8, but this time tuned to 340 horsepower and 430 pound-feet of torque, the most powerful production engine AMC would ever build. Special heads, a hotter cam, a redesigned intake and exhaust, and a 690 cubic feet per minute Motorcraft 4-barrel carburetor all contributed to the increase. A close ratio 4-speed with a Hearst shifter was standard. Heavy-duty suspension, front disc brakes, 15-inch styled wheels with raised white letter tires, and a functional twin-snorkel ram air hood scoop completed the package. And then there was the hood-mounted tachometer. AMC literally put an 8,000 RPM Tosh on top of the hood, facing the driver through the windshield. It was absurd. It was impractical. It was magnificent. The first 1,000 machines came exclusively in red, white, and blue, because apparently AMC's marketing department had a thing for patriotic paint schemes. Later production cars were available in standard colors. The machine ran the quarter mile in 14.4 seconds at 104 miles per hour and hit 0 to 60 in 6.4 seconds. Not many factory-built cars in 1970 could match those numbers. AMC built 2,326 machines before the model was discontinued after a single year of production. To promote the launch, AMC built 10 machines, 5 manuals and 5 automatics, and drove them straight from the factory in Wisconsin to a drag strip in Dallas, where they were raced in completely stock trim. No trailer queens, no prepped cars, just drive them there and race them. That's the most AMC thing I've ever heard. Number 3. The AMC AMX3. If the SC Rambler and the machine proved AMC could build muscle cars, the AMX3 was proof that they could dream even bigger. This was AMC's attempt to build a mid-engine supercar to rival Ferrari and Lamborghini, and for a company that sold station wagons and economy compacts. that was either visionary or completely insane. It was probably both. The chassis was engineered by Giotto Bizzarini, the same man who helped build the Ferrari 250 GTO and Lamborghini's first V12. The body was penned by Richard Teague, AMC's legendary design chief. BMW handled testing and refinement at their facilities in Germany, and the Italian firm Otto Melara, a company better known for building tanks and naval guns, was contracted to build the transaxle, because apparently the standard ZF unit was too long for the layout. Powering this creation was AMC's own 390 cubic inch V8, making 340 horsepower. In a car weighing around 3,300 pounds with a mid-engine layout that translated to 0 to 60 in about 5.5 seconds, and a top speed somewhere between 160 and 170 miles per hour. Bizzarini called it the best car I've ever built in terms of mechanical components and road holding. High praise from the man who engineered the 250 GTO. But AMC was AMC. The $2 million development program was a mountain for a company with no money to spare. 6 prototypes were completed before the project was quietly cancelled. All 6 survive today in private collections and museums. The AMX3 was a moonshot that proved the smallest automaker in America could engineer something that belonged on the same stage as Italy and Germany's finest. Number 4. The AMC Gremlin X. The Gremlin might be the most ridiculed car in American history. That chopped-off rear end, that stubby wheelbase, that name, which literally means a mischievous creature that causes malfunctions. AMC leaned into it, using a cartoon gremlin character in their advertising. It was either brilliant self-awareness or total surrender to absurdity. Either way, the Gremlin X was proof that underneath the questionable styling, there was a genuinely capable little car trying to get out. The X package was the sporty trim, bucket seats, slotted aluminum wheels, body stripes, and most importantly, the option of a 304 cubic inch V8, starting in 1972. A 150 horsepower V8 in a car weighing under 2,900 pounds gave the Gremlin X genuinely lively performance. Road tests showed 0 to 60 in 8.5 seconds and a quarter mile in 16.8 seconds. Respectable numbers for the era, especially considering the 304 was breathing through a conservative 2-barrel carburetor and a single exhaust. But the real Gremlin X story belongs to Randall AMC in Mesa, Arizona. Grant and Mike Randall weren't content with 150 horsepower. They pulled the 304 out of factory Gremlin X's and dropped in AMC's 401 cubic inch V8, the biggest engine in AMC's lineup. The resulting Randall 401XR ran 12.22 seconds in the quarter mile at 115 miles per hour while remaining, in CarCraft magazine's words, a totally streetable daily driver. Only 21 of these Randall 401 Gremlins were ever built, a V8 muscle car disguised as the ugliest economy car on the road. AMC in a nutshell. Number 5. The 1975 AMC Pacer X. The Pacer was supposed to be revolutionary. Dick Teague designed it as the first wide small car, as wide as a full-size sedan, but compact in length, with more glass than any production car before it. The original plan was to power it with a GM Wankel rotary engine, which would have been compact enough to fit the packaging perfectly. Then GM canceled their rotary program, and AMC was left scrambling to shoehorn their cast-iron inline-6 into a car that was never designed for it. The result weighed a staggering 3,425 pounds, deep into mid-size territory, with a desmogged 6-cylinder making just 100 horsepower. Car and driver called it the Flying Fishbowl. The Pacer X was the sporty version, if you can call any Pacer sporty. Vinyl bucket seats, a floor-mounted shifter, custom trim, a front sway bar, and bold X decals on the exterior. Later models could be optioned with a 304 V8, which at least gave the overweight fishbowl some muscle to work with. The Pacer X looked like absolutely nothing else on the road, which was either its greatest strength or its fatal flaw, depending on who you asked. Despite the mockery, AMC sold over 145,000 Pacers in the first year alone. The car eventually became a pop culture punchline when it starred as Garth and Wayne's ride in 1992's Wayne's World. But here's the thing about the Pacer that people forget. It was genuinely innovative in its engineering, with some of the first guardrail beam doors for side impact protection in any American car. The Pacer was weird, heavy, underpowered, and ahead of its time all at once. Only AMC could pull that off. Number 6. The 1972 AMC Hornet Gucci Sportabout. This is the one that makes you do a double take. AMC, the company that built Gremlins and Pacers, partnered with Gucci, the Italian fashion house, to build a designer edition station wagon. And the crazy part? It worked. The 1972 Hornet Gucci Sportabout was the first collaboration between an American automaker and a European fashion designer, a full decade before Lincoln popularized the concept with their designer series. The Gucci package was available exclusively on the Sportabout wagon and included Gucci's signature red and green tricolor perforated vinyl seats, a double G embossed headliner, Gucci emblems on the door panels, and exterior accents that elevated the humble Hornet into something surprisingly upscale. The option cost about $150, which on a car that stickered around $2,500 was a significant premium, but buyers responded. AMC sold 2,583 Gucci Sportabouts in 1972, and another 2,252 in 1973. Encouraged by the success, AMC went further, partnering with Pierre Cardin for the 1973 Javelin and Oleg Cassini for the 1974 Matador. None of those follow-ups captured the same magic, but the Gucci Hornet pioneered an entire category of automotive marketing. The irony is that AMC created the playbook for fashion-branded cars, but never had the resources to truly capitalize on it. Lincoln and Cadillac took the idea and ran with it for decades. Today, a clean Gucci Sportabout is one of the most collectible Hornets in existence. Under 5,000 were ever built across both years, and most were driven into the ground as family haulers. If you find one with an intact Gucci interior, you're looking at a genuine piece of automotive marketing history. Number 7. The 1981 AMC Concord Sundancer. By 1981, the convertible was essentially dead in America. Federal rollover regulations and declining sales had killed off the last of the factory ragtops. The Cadillac Eldorado and the Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme were the last two American convertibles, and both had been discontinued by 1976. For 5 years, you simply could not buy a new American convertible from any manufacturer. AMC saw an opportunity. Using the two-door Concord sedan as a base, they authorized a convertible conversion that would be sold through AMC dealers as the Concord Sundancer. The conversion was anything but a hack job. 14 steel reinforcements were welded to the undercarriage. A steel Targa roll bar was welded to the door pillars for rigidity and rollover protection. The front section of the roof was replaced with a removable lightweight fiberglass panel, while the rear section used a folding polyvinyl top with a tonneau cover. The result was a proper open-air driving experience from a car that was never designed to be a convertible. The Sundancer beat the 1982 Chrysler LeBaron convertible to market by nearly a year, making it one of the first American convertibles of the 1980s revival. AMC even offered the conversion on the four-wheel drive Eagle platform, creating what might be the most unlikely convertible in automotive history. A compact AWD ragtop from the smallest automaker in America. Fewer than 200 Sundancers were built across Concord and Eagle versions combined. Finding one today is nearly impossible. The Sundancer was the last gasp of AMC's relentless creativity. Within a few years, Chrysler would absorb AMC and the Kenosha factory would pivot to building Jeeps exclusively. But for one brief moment, the company that built Gremlins and Pacers was also building convertibles before anyone else had the nerve to try. These 7 cars tell the real story of AMC, a company that was always outgunned, always underfunded, and always willing to try something that nobody else would. They put 390 V8s in Ramblers. They hired Bizzarini to build a supercar. They partnered with Gucci to sell station wagons. They built convertibles when the entire industry said convertibles were dead. AMC never had the resources to compete on equal footing with the big 3, so they competed on audacity instead. And that's why, decades later, we're still talking about them. Let me know in the comments which of these 7 AMC cars surprised you the most. Personally, I think the Rebel machine with that hood-mounted tack might be peak AMC insanity, but I'd love to hear your pick. But thank you all for watching. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. It really helps me out. Until next time, enthusiasts.